shout out to the Ball family. You feel me? Now, let's see here. I'm rolling, man. I'm rolling. Let's get this thing popping. All right, next story. Oh, next story, and I'm sure many of you are aware of this. And again, family, all of these stories about police officers and black people, like I said a couple weeks ago, sometimes I feel like I'm repeating myself. Sometimes I feel like, well, no, maybe I shouldn't talk about that story. I talk about police killings, but no, we got to keep talking about this shit until it stops. You know what I mean? One black man being killed by a cop unjustly and that cop not going to jail is too much. One is too much. So if it continues to happen, even though I'm aware that sometimes the media will use things to sensationalize situations, I understand that, but ultimately we still got to talk about this shit. Ultimately, it's still going on in our community, and you know, for those, and this is another reason why I do it. For those of you who may not watch the news, those of you who may not be know what's going on around the country, to other black folks, I'm gonna present you this information so you can know what's going on in your community, man. This is the code I was just talking about. It's about us being on code. You know what I mean? It's about us all being uniformed and seeing each other as one. When I see a black man get killed in Alabama or in Louisiana, to me that's my brother. That same thing can happen to me here in California. So I look at all black people in this country as my family. That's how I see it. You feel me? So this is a story out of Florida, and there was a video attached to it. So authorities released video footage of a fatal police shooting that left 2 black teenagers dead in Florida. Now this is the situation, y'all. Now the shooting occurred November 13th in Cocoa, Florida. Is that Cocoa, C-O-C-O-A? In Cocoa, Florida, a coastal town about 50 miles east of Orlando. Angelo Crumbs, who was 16, and 18-year-old Sincere Pierce, both of Cocoa, were in a moving car trying to drive away from a traffic stop when Brevard County Sheriff's Department, or I'm sorry, Brevard County Sheriff Deputy Jafet Santiago Miranda fired several gunshots at the vehicle. Now, the Brevard County Sheriff's Office, in a statement this week, suggested that the fatal shooting was justified, claiming Santiago Miranda was in immediate danger because the car was barreling down on him when he fired on it. And if you go to melanatedfathers.com, go to my website, melanatedfathers.com, you can read this news story. There's the video attached, and in my personal opinion, family, the young man was driving the car, and it looks like the car may have been on the side of the officer. From my angle, it didn't look as if the car was coming fast directly at him, and he had to shoot as many times as he shot. You know what I mean? So we're going to get into that in a minute. Let me read a little bit more of this just to give y'all a clear understanding. Okay, so just so you know, it was 2 officers there. Both officers were fairly new to the department, for whatever that's worth. Santiago Miranda was hired by the sheriff's office in February 2007. His partner, Carson Hendren, a second deputy at the scene during the shooting, joined the agency in 2018. So these are fairly young officers. And again, family, I'm into being it as contextual as possible. I understand that in our community, in any community in America, some form of policing is necessary, right? So when we talk about defunding the police and all these different movements, let's be specific about what we're talking about. Taking money from police departments and putting some of those funds into areas that could be more beneficial to the community is what, in my opinion, and what I've read, how actually defunding the police can happen. Now, and maybe not in this situation, but there are other times where, you know, maybe a cop with a gun shouldn't be the one that shows up. Now, in this situation, I want to finish reading this. The sheriff's office said both deputies were placed on paid administrative leave pending the investigation by Florida Department of Law Enforcement, a common procedure for officer-involved shootings. We figured that was going to happen. They get on paid leave, then they end up being back in the goddamn force. That's pretty much how it works. But here's the thing, family. Supposedly, they were following these 2. It's 3 young men in the car. 2 of them end up getting shot and killed, right? Supposedly, they followed these young men because they said it was a stolen vehicle. Supposedly, they said it was a stolen vehicle. Now, come to find out, the young man that was driving, I think let me see here, Angelo Crumbs, he was in his girlfriend's car, right? So if, let's just say that's the case. So you see these dudes drive by, because the third kid who got in the car, his I don't think it was his mother, but his caregiver witnessed him get in the car. So she seen his two friends come pick him up. He get in the car. They drive off. Once they drive off, she see the cops start following them. She immediately became a little antsy, like, I hope these cops don't mess with these babies. She says once the third kid got in the car, the cops begin to follow the young men. In the video that I have on my website, you'll see that once they follow the young men pull into a driveway, come back out, and they're about to go back the other way. Now, it's several ways you can look at this situation, right? So for one, the bottom line is these weren't criminals. These weren't criminals. So approaching them the way they approached them may have been a little incorrectly, but also what I would say about the young men, because once the young man backed out and he was about to drive towards the officer, now again, in the video, it looks as if the young man was going to come this way on the officer, opposed to hitting him direct, right? And he's driving at 6, 7, 8 miles an hour. He's not driving that fast, right? But at the end of the day, something we got to tell our babies, something we got to tell our young men, when you're in a situation where cops are attempting to pull you over and they pull their guns out, you got to stop. Like, that's one thing I would have told the young men, and any of our young men, like, once, and I'm going to continue to say this, once you get pulled over by a cop, you damn near behind enemy lines. So I don't want you to tuck your tail and not be a man, but you definitely got to move strategically so you can make it home to your family. So the two young men end up getting killed, right? Again, the officer fired like 9, 10 shots in the car, and we're going to continue to have this conversation of, how could these cops have approached this situation so everybody lives, right? Like at times, I don't even be on no shit like don't do police work or don't investigate suspicious people, right? Even though sometimes they focus in on us opposed to other people. But at the end of the day, this shouldn't have, he shot 10, 11, 12 times in that car. So let's look at that. He couldn't have shot the tires, right? There isn't a way to shoot at a vehicle. Now, again, if a car is burling at you full speed, you may have to shoot wherever you have to shoot to stop them. That wasn't the case here. So for one, you fucking with some kids that didn't even do nothing, right? These kids wasn't driving no stolen car. There was no reason to follow them. Now, if more information comes out about why they were messing with these young men, then I'll report on that. But to my knowledge, these young men he was driving his girlfriend's car, right? You could have, like a report that I read said, you could have ran the license plate to find this thing out. So why are you jumping out of your car, pulling your gun out? All of this shit looks suspicious. So when we talk about Black Lives Matter, when we talk about police brutality, when we talk about all these things that melanated Americans complain about, this is damn near a prime example of what the fuck we talking about. Because at the end of the day, these babies is dead, right? And from, just from history and knowing how all of this works, I don't think, I don't think that these officers are going to be arrested. You see what I'm saying? And when they don't get arrested, you tell me what's the benefit if you're a police officer in a situation like this to stop doing what you're doing? You're not going to get arrested. You probably just get transferred. You don't really lose no money. So they gun happy. You know what I mean? So again, the car was not stolen, and if that's the case, if the car was not stolen, and this is like a mistaken identity thing, both of y'all should be fired for one, and the cop who shot needs to go to jail. It is my opinion, family, that if one of these cops who killed us get 25 to life, they all stop. You see what I'm saying? But when we're dealing with these Blue Lives Matter motherfuckers, when we're dealing with these police unions, these are some of the biggest gangs in America, and they protect each other beyond a shadow of a doubt. And I understand to a degree you have a dangerous job, but not like that. Not to where you get to pull your gun and kill anybody without no retribution. You know what I mean? That shit ain't cool. And like I keep telling people, I had a conversation with a friend of mine the other day who's a Trump supporter, who doesn't believe racism exists and all this shit. Excuse me. I had to tell him that, look, if police treated everybody the same way, let's say they was killing innocent white people, unarmed white people, and not going to jail, because he tried to read me a stat saying that police kill white people more. Well, no shit, it's more white people in the country, and I would need to look at the details about that. Are we talking about armed white people? Are we talking about white people who are being aggressive? You see what I'm saying? Because even somebody black, if you come in an officer with a knife, or if you come in an officer with a gun, they're gonna have to do something to put your ass down, right? But if you unarmed, if you just trying to fight, it should be 100 ways they can get out of that. And in my opinion, white people aren't getting killed. Show me a story of a white teenager, a 16-year-old white boy, getting killed by cops in this manner, in this whole country not being in uproar. You see what I'm saying? And I looked up a little more information about the sheriff who's in charge of this town, which is important. The sheriff's, which name is Wayne Ivey. He's one of these tough on crime type of sheriffs who feels he gonna arrest the criminals, he gonna chase the criminals regardless of whatever. He's actually a really good friend with Trump, which is important to note. And looking up this county, which is hold on one second. Brevard County Sheriff's Department, when looking up that county, they've dealt with racist incidents back in 2018 with racial claims about how they pulled over a brother, and you know what I'm saying, they didn't plant crack on him, but they pulled him over for having drugs. They say he threw drugs out of the car. Like, to make a long story short, they say he threw drugs out of the car, never threw drugs out of the car. They end up putting him in jail for like 36 hours. So the point is, in some of these instances, is racially motivated. Like, I want to get to a point in this country where we don't have to talk about race at all, where we can look at a situation and believe that the white officer, whoever's involved, is dealing with the person based on the actual incident, based on what that person actually did, opposed to some racially motivated shit. You know what I mean? So the Brevard County Sheriff's sheriff, which his name is, let me tell you his name again, because this is important, family. We need to know who these people are. We need to know who affecting our community. And a lot of times when you look at these things, you'll see a trail of what is to come, right? So he's a Republican incumbent. Wayne Ivey is known nationally for his tough on crime viral videos. This motherfucker he has a wheel of fugitives where he has like 6 or 8 fugitives, and he spins the wheel wherever it lands. That's who they should go arrest right now, or whatever. He also dog whistles to his community, telling the citizens to strap up, basically telling the citizens to help the officers and do whatever they got to do to get the criminals off the street. You know what I mean? So this police department could be riddled with these type of officers, right? I just finished watching a documentary on Netflix called Trial 4, right? Where it's about this brother named Sean, damn it, what is this? Sean Avery, I can't remember the brother's name. But he lived in Boston, and he dealt with something similar. Or he dealt with these corrupt police departments. So in Boston, it was a corrupt police department that basically set him up to take a murder. Just to make a long story short for you guys, set him up to take a murder based on the fact that the cop who got killed was a dirty cop. The cop that got killed was a dirty cop. He had dirty deputies around him, so they did their best to cover up the case and just pick somebody to send off to jail based on the fact that they was stealing money and they was doing criminal type of shit, right? So we have a lot of, I only say that to say, in my opinion, we have a lot of police departments in America that needs to be just decomposed. Like, we need to break these motherfuckers down and start fresh. You see what I'm saying? Because like I was saying last week, some of these racist factions, I'm not sure if they're not too far gone at this point. You know what I mean? Because some of them have been given the green light to pretty much do whatever you want to do. Like in that situation in Boston, these officers, these detectives, they were literally doing whatever they wanted to do. Even as far as working overtime, they would lie about the overtime they was making. There was no checks and balances. You know what I mean? And then when you went to the highest DA in the country, or the highest DA in Boston, the highest detective in Boston, they was all on that bullshit too. You see what I'm saying? So as black folks, it's like a losing battle, man. I want to be able to come on here and just talk about the things that we go through and talk about some of these things without looking at it from a racist point of view, but it's difficult. Family, it's difficult when looking at the history of our people in this country and to continue to see stories like this. At the end of the day, excuse me, these two babies is gone. This is a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old who ain't gonna be able to get married. They ain't gonna be able to go to college. Excuse me. Excuse me. They ain't gonna be able to start families. You see what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, these babies is gone, man, and I'm tired of this shit. And I'm gonna continue to talk about, because again, my homeboy I was having a conversation with, you know what I mean? He hit, and we've had these kind of ongoing conversations. He hitting me like, you need to quit talking about race so much. I'm like, fuck that. Who am I upsetting? We need to be aware of what's going on in this country. If somebody outside of my community don't like what the fuck I'm talking about, I don't care, man. We need to speak truth to power. You feel me? We need to speak truth to power until this shit stop happening. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. All of us have a job to do. Just to look at the injustices at my people and turn the other cheek is some shit that I'm never gonna do. And if you black and you not on that page, I ain't got time for you either. Period. I'm not changing my stance on none of this shit until I see it stop happening. These is our babies, y'all. These is 16, 17, 18-year-old motherfuckers. So look, we already dealing with the fact that we have a problem with how we treat each other, right? Because that's something else he was telling me. Like I'm not stupid. We can have both conversations. Do you realize that? We can have both conversations. Now they're a little separate, but we can have both conversations. We can have a conversation about police brutality and how we're treated in this country by authority figures across the board, right? That's true. Then we can have another conversation about how we treat each other, about how we kill each other, about how we don't stay on code with each other, about how this system has almost turned us against each other, where you quick to harm somebody black, but George Zimmerman is still walking the streets right now. You know what I mean? A lot of cops who've killed our babies are still walking the streets right now, and we don't have the same venom towards people who hurt anybody black. Now, of course, for some people, if this type of shit happened to somebody in your family, then you may jump into action. But melanated people, I'm here to tell you, we need to get to a point where it don't have to be nobody in your family. Like I was saying, these young dudes, they in my family. They in my global black family. Because if that shit can happen to them, that can happen to one of my 5 boys. And I'm not waiting till something happens to somebody in my family before I jump into action. Because really, the minimum we can do, because I believe in community organizing. I believe in all, and this is my belief, I believe all black people in America, all melanated people in America should be a part of some community organization. If you're a writer, you need to be writing about injustice. If you like speaking like me, you need to be speaking about injustice. If you're a teacher in the school, you need to be teaching about injustice. If you got kids at home, you need to be teaching them about black history, digging into it as much as you possibly can so they can get a clear understanding of where we are in this country. This is our responsibility, y'all. If you're not going to start an organization, be a part of an organization. Give food to the homeless. Mentor kids in your neighborhood. Like, if we are to get rid of all of the goddamn problems that we face in this country, it's gonna take all of us. It's too many niggas on the sideline just worried about their family. Now, I get you, bro. It's important that your household is straight. That's first, right? But after you get your household straight, we got a whole lot of work to do, and this shit is gonna take all of us. So rest in peace to the 2 young brothers, because that's the bottom line. These 2 young brothers, like I said, they ain't getting married, they ain't going to college, their future is cut short. Show me where else in America this happens to anybody else. What the fuck are we talking about? People telling me stop talking about race? People telling me stop using profanity? Is that is that what's on your mind when I'm talking? The fact that I'm cussing? Fuck that. Look at what I'm talking about. I had to tell somebody this the other day. She was like, I love your stuff, Harrison. You cutting down on a profanity too? I don't give a shit about that. Look at what I'm talking about. Look at the type of situations that I'm talking about. These ain't calm scenarios. It's damn near time. It's go time. It's battle time. I'm of that belief. Like, if some shit popped off in this country, some racial war type shit, which, just a note, in my opinion, I don't think we ready as black folks to engage some shit like that. But I'm ready, man. Like, I love my people at all costs. What happens to me sometimes is people who know me, who don't know how I feel about some of these issues. As they say, you shouldn't talk about politics and race, and I see why. Why? Motherfuckers is scared. That's why. Of who they gonna offend. They are scared they boss is watching. You feel me? They scared they white buddy or their Asian. I don't give a fuck about none of that, family. I don't care about none of that. Black people is my family, and if anybody don't like that, I don't give a shit. I'ma speak about it the way that I need to. I'm free. You mean? Up here, I'm free. Now, of course, there's restrictions when we travel this country, and the motherfuckers tell me all the time we completely free. My homeboy was telling me that I wouldn't go that far to say we're completely free, but you could be free mentally. I'm not gonna let nobody control what I say. I'm not gonna create a platform where I speak for my people but hold my goddamn tongue. I don't care where you know me from or what situations you know me from. This is how I feel, and if you don't like it, I don't give a fuck. That's the point we gotta get to, family. I'm about helping my people. I'm about empowering my people, one father at a time, goddammit, just like my website say. You feel me? So rest in peace to the young brother, Angelo Crumbs, who was 16, Crooms? I apologize if I'm saying his name wrong, family. Angelo Crooms and the 18-year-old brother, Sincere Pierce. Two of our young kings who are gone for what? Again, if you want to see the video of this officer killing these two young brothers, you can go to melanatedfathers.com, melanatedfathers.com. Check out the news article, where on the news article, you'll see, or in the news article, I posted the video where, again, these are three young men driving in a vehicle. Supposedly, they were driving in a stolen car. Now we know the vehicle was not stolen. So the officers are following the car. They're telling them stop, or whatever the case may be. Their lights are on or whatever. They're following the car. The young men pull into a driveway, back out, and they're going to start driving towards the officer's cruiser. You feel me? Now, if you look at the video, for one, he's going 7-8 miles an hour. So you could have busted a tire, you could have busted in the air, you could have did something to scare him at least. He don't even look as if he's coming directly at the officer. He looked like he on the side of the officer a little bit. And then the officer let loose in the car like 10, 15 times. Unnecessary. And the car wasn't stolen. So how are we going to repair this? Now again, like always, when a situation like this pop off, Benjamin Crump has been hired. And again, brother, Benjamin Crump, you are our brother. Like I'm on here saying, I love all black people. You, my brother, but we got to take a different strategy. I would love to talk to him to get an idea, because I hear him talk all the time when these cases pop up. But I want to get his ideology on how you view these cases, because it almost seems like we just trying to get the family a bag. And a bag ain't going to bring the babies back. Shit, a bag ain't going to stop these cops from doing this shit again. You know what I mean? So to a degree, it looks like he's almost ambulance chasing. Like whatever case I can go to, I'm gonna go to, represent the family, talk about how outrageous it was, get him like $3 million, get my little cut, move on to the next one. Family, how about we get somebody arrested? How about that be your goal? How about you, when a family hires you, you say, look, I'm not in the money game. Money is gonna be way down the line possibly. I wanna get justice. Justice ain't money. Justice ain't money. Period. If you can't go into a courtroom with some of these cases which look like it's a slam dunk, then maybe they need a different lawyer. Maybe he needs a different approach. And again, I'm not sure what the brother is faced against, because he is a black man in a courtroom and this is their system. So we have to factor that in too. But these cops need to start getting arrested, man. If not, look, man, I got 5 boys, youngest being 13, right? I don't want my kids 15, 20 years from now, when they're completely grown men, going through this same shit. Gotta fear that they kids go end up getting hurt by a cop or hurt by somebody in charge, right? Some type of authority figure. This is bullshit, man. So rest in peace to the young brothers. I'm not hopeful, unfortunately. I'm not hopeful that we're going to get any arrest. I'm not hopeful that these cops will be reprimanded in a way that can possibly prevent this shit from happening again. And that's the sad part, because I don't have anything to look to say that they're going to get arrested. Name the last cop that killed unarmed man who's doing real time. I don't mean 3, 4, 5 years. That's a slap on the wrist. After time served, after good behavior, these motherfuckers is getting out in 2 years. That's not enough for a person's life. So point to me to somebody getting life in prison. 25 years of life, 17 years, 15 years. That should have stopped overnight. You feel me? So rest in peace to these young brothers. Man, this country got to do better. And that's the bottom line. The fuck? Got me all hot. Next news story. Let's